You're listening to Smart Bites, where big learning comes in small, digestible bites. Each episode, we break down fascinating topics from science and history to life skills and creativity into quick, fun lessons you can enjoy anytime, anywhere. So grab your headphones, open up your mind, and get ready to take a Smart Bite. Hey y'all, welcome back to Smart Bites, where big learning comes in small, digestible bites. I'm your host, Moonie.
And I'm Rufus George. Pull up a rocking chair, grab yourself a glass of sweet tea, and settle in for a spell, because today, we're celebrating something that very few nations in history have ever been able to celebrate. 250 years, that's right. America is turning 250 years old. Now, if you're expecting fireworks, parades, and a list of presidents, well, you've come to the wrong porch.
Yep, today isn't about memorizing dates. It isn't about arguing politics. And it certainly isn't about pretending America has always gotten everything right. Instead, we're going to ask one question. How did a fragile experiment, one that many people believed would fail, survive for 2.5 centuries?
You know, Moonie, countries don't usually make it to 250 years. Empires rise and fall, kingdoms come and go. Some collapse from war, some from corruption. Some simply forget who they are. History's full of great nations that believed they'd last forever, until they didn't.
That's something most of us never stop to think about. America feels permanent because it's all we've ever known. But history tells a different story. Nothing lasts forever, unless people choose to preserve it. Let's travel back to July of 1776. Close your eyes for just a second, unless you're driving, of course. You're not standing in front of a television watching fireworks. You're standing in a dusty street. The air is thick with humidity. Children are playing nearby. A blacksmith's hammer rings in the distance. Someone rides through the town carrying urgent news from Pennsylvania. People gather, whispers spread. They've done it. They've declared independence. Now imagine the silence that follows. Not cheers, not celebration, silence. Because everyone understood exactly what those words meant.
Today we call them the Founding Fathers. Back then, the British government had another name for them: traitors. Every man who signed that declaration knew he could lose everything: his farm, his business, his family, his freedom, even his life. Signing wasn't a symbolic gesture. It was a death warrant if the revolution failed.
Here's something history books don't always emphasize. Independence wasn't inevitable. In fact, it looked almost impossible. The colonies had no standing national government, no established army capable of matching Britain, very little money, almost no navy, and they were preparing to fight the greatest military power on earth at the time. Imagine challenging the world's strongest superpower with borrowed supplies, volunteer soldiers, and hope.
Hope's a wonderful thing, but hope doesn't stop cannonballs. Britain possessed the world's most powerful navy. Its army had decades of professional experience. Many British officers believed the rebellion would be crushed within months. Truth be told, so did plenty of Americans.
Here's our first history book left this out moment of this episode. Most Americans grow up believing all the colonists stood together. That's simply not true. Historians generally estimate that roughly 1/3 of the colonists supported independence. About 1/3 remained loyal to Britain, and many others tried to avoid choosing sides altogether. Imagine that. Neighbors who had attended church together, farmed beside one another, celebrated weddings together, now found themselves on opposite sides of a revolution. This wasn't just a war against Britain. For many communities, it became a civil war between neighbors.
Can you imagine Thanksgiving dinner after that? No, Cousin Thomas, pass the potatoes, and please quit telling everyone King George's army is coming. But seriously, families were divided, churches split, friendships ended. History often looks neat and orderly looking backward. Living through it, it rarely is.
Get this, RG. Another surprise. We often picture George Washington as a military genius who marched from one victory to another. But the reality is much more interesting. Washington lost more battles than he won. He made mistakes. His army retreated repeatedly. There were moments when the entire revolution seemed only days away from collapse. Yet he possessed something equally important: persistence. He understood that if the colonial army remained in the field, the revolution still had a chance. Sometimes survival is victory.
You know what fascinates me most? They weren't just fighting for independence. People have fought for independence throughout history. That wasn't new. What was new was trying to build a nation where political power flowed from ordinary citizens rather than kings or hereditary rulers. Nobody had successfully attempted it on this scale before. There wasn't a blueprint, no instruction manual. They were writing it as they went along.
Which means America wasn't created because someone knew exactly how to build the perfect country. Go figure. It was created because imperfect people believed self-government was worth risking everything for. Let's imagine something for just a moment. What if the Declaration of Independence had never been signed? Would North America still have become independent someday? Probably. Would the United States look the same? Almost certainly not. Would representative democracy have spread across the globe in the same way? No one can know. History often turns on decisions made by ordinary people willing to accept extraordinary risk.
As we celebrate America's 250th birthday, maybe the most remarkable fact isn't that the nation declared independence. It's that an idea survived. An idea that government belongs to the people. An idea that's been tested, questioned, expanded, sometimes ignored, sometimes defended at tremendous cost. For 250 years.
And that's only the beginning of the story, because next we're introducing you to the heroes who helped build America, the ones history quietly left in the shadows. You may know George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, but I can almost guarantee you've never heard some of the names that we're about to share. So stay with us. Before the break, we talked about the American Revolution as an impossible gamble. A handful of farmers, merchants, blacksmiths, teachers, and businessmen challenged the most powerful empire on earth. But here's something that has always bothered me. When we tell America's story, we keep meeting the same handful of famous names: Washington, Franklin, Jefferson, Adams, Hamilton. They're certainly important. But they weren't the only people building this nation. Thousands of ordinary Americans risked everything, and history barely remembers their names.
You know, Moonie, history's kind of funny. It remembers generals, but forgets the people carrying the ammunition. It remembers presidents, but forgets the mothers raising the next generation. Sometimes history shines a spotlight. Sometimes it leaves folks standing in the dark. Well, today, we're carrying a lantern.
Imagine being born into slavery. Imagine everyone around you assuming you're invisible. Now imagine using that assumption as your greatest weapon. Meet James Armistead. Most Americans have never heard his name, yet without him, the Revolution might have lasted much longer.
Now, James has an interesting story. James was allowed to work for the American Army. Eventually, he convinced the British he wanted to help them instead. The British trusted him. The Americans trusted him. He became something incredibly rare, a double agent. He listened, he observed, he remembered troop movements, supply routes, military plans, then quietly carried that information back to the Americans. General Washington himself praised the intelligence James provided during the campaign that ended at Yorktown. Imagine that, one of history's greatest military victories, helped by a man history nearly forgot.
That is amazing. After the war, James petitioned for his freedom. Supporting documents included letters from none other than Marquis de Lafontaine. When James became free, he added Lafontain's name to his own. Today, we know him as James Armistead Lafontaine, not because history gave him recognition, but because he earned it. Here's something many classrooms skip. Thousands of Black Americans fought on both sides of the Revolution. Some sought liberty through British promises, others believed independence offered them a better path. Their stories remind us that the Revolution meant different things to different people. History becomes richer when we hear all of those voices.
The British are coming! The British are coming!
Everybody knows about Paul Revere. Poor fella probably couldn't walk through Boston without somebody asking him to repeat that ride. But have you ever heard of Sybil Ludington? She was just 16 years old. One rainy April night in 1777, she climbed onto her horse and rode nearly 40 miles through darkness. She warned militia units that British troops were approaching. Think about that. No streetlights, no GPS, no cell phone flashlight, just courage. The ride took hours. She crossed muddy roads and unfamiliar territory in the middle of the night. By morning, hundreds of militia members had assembled.
History has room for more than one midnight rider. Sometimes the famous story isn't the only remarkable one. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the woman who signed with ink and courage. We're going to talk about Mary Catherine Goddard. She wasn't a soldier. She didn't command troops. She wasn't a politician. She was a printer. Now, that doesn't sound terribly exciting until you realize that in 1777, she printed one of the first official copies of the Declaration of Independence with the names of the signers attached. That meant everyone reading it knew exactly who had declared independence, including the British.
And here's the part I admire. Mary didn't hide. She printed her own name at the bottom. Think about that. She publicly identified herself with a rebellion against the crown. That took guts. Ink can be just as dangerous as gunpowder.
Rufus, why do you think we forget people like this?
Well, history books only have so many pages. Eventually, somebody decides which stories get told. The trouble is, real history isn't made by 12 famous people. It's made by millions. Teachers, farmers, nurses, carpenters, parents, preachers, mechanics, shopkeepers, soldiers whose names never made it into monuments. That's true in every generation, including ours.
Yeah, you definitely have a point there. Here's another story people rarely hear. Long before he became America's first president, George Washington was almost captured several times. During the Revolution, bullets tore through his clothing, horses were shot right out from beneath him, friends died all around him. More than once, officers later remarked they couldn't explain how he had survived. Whether someone sees that as a remarkable luck, providence, or simply the chaos of battle, it's striking that a man who would become the nation's first president repeatedly escaped death under extraordinary circumstances.
History often feels inevitable because we already know the ending. But the people living it didn't. Every day, everything could have changed.
And another fascinating fact, the revolution wasn't won by one spectacular battle. It was won by endurance, by people refusing to quit, mothers keeping farms running, blacksmiths repairing weapons, merchants finding supplies, doctors treating the wounded, children carrying messages, ordinary people doing ordinary things, day after day and year after year. You know, we've spent a lot of time talking about famous Americans. Maybe it's time we broaden the definition of greatness. Perhaps greatness isn't always standing in front of history. Sometimes it's quietly holding history together while someone else gets the credit.
And maybe that's America's greatest strength. Generation after generation, ordinary people stepping forward when extraordinary moments demand it. Most of them never become famous. Most of them never appear in textbooks. Yet somehow, they're the ones who keep writing the next chapter.
What if James Armistead had never carried those messages? Or if Sybil Ludington had decided the ride was too dangerous? What if Mary Catherine Goddard had refused to print those names? History rarely changes because of one famous speech. More often, it changes because ordinary people decide to do one brave thing at exactly the right moment.
That's right, Moonie. And next, we're going to visit 5 moments when America stood right on the edge. Moments when the country we know today very nearly became something entirely different. And trust me, some of these stories are more unbelievable than fiction. Stay with us.
So far, we've talked about an impossible revolution and ordinary Americans who quietly changed history. But now, we're going to walk through 5 moments when the United States stood on the edge of the cliff. Moments when people honestly believed America might not survive. Here's something history teaches us. Nations rarely disappear overnight. They unravel one crisis, one bad decision, one missed opportunity at a time. Yet somehow, this nation kept finding a way forward, not because the road was easy, but because each generation was forced to answer a difficult question. What are we willing to sacrifice to keep this experiment alive? Picture this. It's December. The Army is marching into Valley Forge, not towards victory, towards survival. Nearly 12,000 soldiers arrive. Many have no proper shoes. Some wrap rags around bleeding feet. Others leave bloody footprints in the snow. Food is scarce, disease is spreading, and families back home wonder if their fathers, husbands, sons will ever return.
And you know what surprises people? The British weren't the greatest threat. Winter was. Typhus, pneumonia, smallpox, starvation. More Americans died from disease than from British bullets during the Revolutionary War. History books love battlefields, but disease has always been one of history's deadliest generals.
Yep. Nearly 2,000 soldiers died that winter. Many historians believe that if Washington's army had dissolved, the revolution would have probably collapsed. Instead, those who remained trained harder. They became disciplined. They left Valley Forge stronger when they arrived. Sometimes history isn't changed by winning battles. Sometimes it's changed by refusing to quit. And here's the story that few people know. The war is ending. the soldiers haven't been paid and they're very frustrated and angry. Some officers begin discussing something extraordinary. Maybe George Washington should become king. Think about that. The nation had just fought a revolution to escape a king, and now some wanted to crown one. How ridiculous is that?
Yeah, crazy thing was that Washington could have taken the power. Many armies throughout history have made their commanders rulers. Nobody would have been shocked. Instead, he did something that changed history forever. He refused. Then he resigned his military commission and voluntarily returned home. King George III reportedly remarked that if Washington truly gave up power and returned to private life, he will be the greatest man in the world.
Heck, that moment may have saved the American Republic before it truly began. Because power voluntarily surrendered? That's one of the rarest things in human history. Okay, we're going to do a little time travel and jump ahead a little. Because no crisis tested America more deeply than the Civil War. Families, churches, and states all divided. More than 600,000 Americans died according to traditional estimates, though more recent scholarship suggests the total may have been even higher. It remains the deadliest conflict in American history.
Let that sink in a moment. Not World War II, not Vietnam, not Iraq. Americans fighting Americans. Every town, north and south, carried scars.
And some scars never healed. But here's what history often overlooks. After the guns fell silent, the harder work began. Rebuilding trust, communities, and a nation. History reminds us that ending conflict and healing afterwards are two very different things. Healing did take place. Time did move forward. Still not perfect, but still making strides. But then, imagine waking up one morning, going to the bank, only to discover your savings are gone. Businesses are closed, factories stop, families lose homes, millions lose their jobs, and hope becomes harder to find.
Your grandparents or great-grandparents probably told stories about this. Folks fixed everything.
And all without YouTube.
Nothing got thrown away. Flour sacks became clothing. Neighbors shared gardens. Churches fed families. People discovered something remarkable. When money disappears, character matters even more.
The Depression didn't just change the economy. It changed an entire generation's understanding of work. You worked because you needed to eat. Survival, savings, family, and gratitude all rolled into one. All that hard work began to pay off. Things are looking brighter. Then rolls in October of 1962. The United States discovers Soviet nuclear missiles are being installed in Cuba, just 90 miles from Florida. The world is holding its breath. Schools practice nuclear drills. Families wonder if tomorrow will come. For 13 days, the possibility of nuclear war feels frighteningly real.
But here's one of those incredible stories history almost forgot. Deep beneath the ocean, a Soviet submarine believed war might already have begun. Its captain wanted to launch a nuclear torpedo, but one officer, Vasily Arkhipov, refused to agree. His decision helped prevent a launch. We'll never know exactly what might have happened otherwise, but one calm voice in one submarine mattered. Sometimes, history turns on a single person's willingness to say, "Not yet."
Phew, that was a little bit too close for comfort. But do you notice something? None of these stories have perfect endings. The Revolution costed lives. The Civil War left lasting wounds. The Depression brought tremendous hardship. And the Cold War created decades of fear. But America survived. But survival always comes with a price.
That's because resilience isn't free. Every generation pays for it somehow. The question is, what currency does your generation spend? Sacrifice, service, courage, compromise? History says somebody always pays.
You want to hear another crazy thought? Every generation has believed this is the worst America has ever been. Go ahead, read the newspapers from the 1790s, the 1860s, the 1930s, and even the 1960s. The headlines change, the worries change, but the fears surrounding it all are surprisingly familiar. History has a way of reminding us that uncertainty isn't unusual, but it is part of the American story. So what if Washington had accepted that crown? What if the Union had dissolved forever? What if the Great Depression had broken the nation's spirit? What if one submarine officer had made a different choice? History doesn't owe us happy endings. It offers us lessons. The question is, are we listening?
After hearing these stories, it's hard not to appreciate just how fragile this experiment has always been. Not fragile because Americans are weak. Fragile because freedom has always required people willing to protect it, improve it, and sometimes fight for it.
We're going to leave the history books behind for now and take a long look in the mirror. If Americans from 1776, 1863, or even 1945 walked through our neighborhoods today, what would surprise them? What would make them proud? And what questions might they ask us? Let's find out. We've spent the last few minutes walking through history, looking at the people, the sacrifices, and the moments when America nearly came apart. But now, I'd like to try something a little different. Rufus, let's pretend we've gotten into a time machine, sitting out here on the porch.
Well, if it runs on sweet tea and biscuits, I reckon it'll start right up.
I suppose it would, Rufus. Let's imagine we invite 4 Americans to sit with us, one from 1776, one from 1865, and one from 1945, and then the last one, of course, from today. What kind of conversation do you think we'd have? Let's start with the obvious. The America they'd see today would be almost unimaginable. Airplanes crossing oceans in hours, tiny computers in our pockets, heart surgeries, space travel, artificial intelligence, video calls with someone halfway around the world.
Can you imagine trying to explain a smartphone to Benjamin Franklin? Well, Ben, this little rectangle lets me talk to my cousin in Alaska, watch a baseball game, order supper, pay my electric bill, and argue with complete strangers. He'd probably say, "Son, maybe read a book every now and then."
That would be kind of funny. But I think they'd be amazed by what ordinary Americans have accomplished. We've eradicated diseases, we've built highways from coast to coast, we've even walked on the moon and created the internet. Fed millions around the world, invented technologies that transform the world. Americans have repeatedly solved problems people once thought were impossible.
That's one thing I hope we never lose. Americans have always been builders. We build businesses, churches, schools, communities, machines, ideas. Sometimes we forget just how innovative this country has always been.
I do think one thing would genuinely shock them: loneliness. Today, many people are more connected digitally than any generation before them. Yet research consistently shows that Americans report feeling more isolated than in previous decades. We've never had more ways to communicate, yet meaningful connection is still very hard to find.
You know, when I was growing up, well, let's just say dinosaurs were still interviewing for jobs. But seriously, neighbors knew each other. If somebody got sick, folks showed up. If somebody lost a barn, Everybody grabbed a hammer. Nobody asked, "Whose responsibility is this?" They just helped. Now, I'm not saying those days were perfect, far from it. But community wasn't something you scheduled, it was something you lived.
That's a very important point. Sometimes people say, I wish I could go back. But history reminds us that every era had its problems. The 1770s had war. The 1800s had disease, poverty, and slavery. The early 1900s saw child labor and limited working protections. The 1940s endured a world war. The good old days were often incredibly difficult for people living through them.
Exactly. Every generation remembers the good and quietly forgets some of the hard parts. History has a way of polishing memories. That's why we study it honestly, not to tear down the past and not to romanticize it, but to learn from it.
Yes, I do agree. Here's something I've been thinking about. The founders talked a great deal about liberty, but they also talked about virtue, responsibility, character. Self-government wasn't just about elected leaders. It meant governing ourselves, our words, our actions, and our choices.
Freedom without responsibility doesn't stay free very long. Think about your own family. Every household has rules. Not because somebody enjoys making rules, but because families work best when everybody carries part of the load. Maybe nations aren't all that different.
Well, I never really thought about it like that before, but you definitely have a point. But I am going to give this generation some credit. We have made remarkable progress in medicine. Education is available to more people than ever before. And information that once took us weeks and weeks in a library can now be accessed in seconds. People from different cultures connect every day. That's pretty amazing. Americans continue to volunteer, invent, create businesses, and respond to disasters with generosity. Those are things all worth celebrating.
Absolutely. Every generation leaves gifts for the next one. Our job is to make sure we leave more than we take.
Now comes the harder question. What have we lost? Patience? The ability to disagree without becoming enemies? Maybe time around the dinner table or handwritten letters? And even front porches. Maybe we've become so busy documenting life that sometimes we forget to live it.
You know what I miss? Boredom. Hear me out. When folks got bored, they built something, played music, visited neighbors, read books, started businesses, dreamed. Nowadays, the second we're bored, we reach for a screen. Maybe boredom wasn't the enemy we thought it was. Maybe it was where creativity lived.
You know the old saying that history repeats itself? I'm not sure that's exactly true. Events don't repeat, people do. Human nature hasn't changed much. People still hope, they fear, love, argue, dream, and sacrifice. That's why history remains so relevant. Consider this. Every generation believes it's living through unprecedented change. Can you imagine the first automobile replacing horses, electric lights replacing candles, and telephones replacing letters? Then came radio, television, computers, the internet, and artificial intelligence. Each innovation sparked excitement, and each sparked concern. The tools change, but human questions remain remarkably familiar.
Every generation thinks it's facing problems nobody has ever faced before. Then history quietly whispers, "I've seen this before."
Well, RG, instead of us asking history the questions, what if history asked us a few? For example, would we be good neighbors? Would we sacrifice for people we've never met? Are we willing to protect freedom even when it's inconvenient? Are we willing to leave our community stronger than we found them? Those aren't political questions. They're human ones.
You know, America isn't just a place, it's a conversation. One generation starts it, the next one continues it. None of us gets the final word.
And that, my friend, is both exciting and humbling, because in 250 years, the story still isn't finished. We're living inside the next chapter, and that brings us to one final question. Where do we go from here? "250 years. Just saying those words feels almost unbelievable. For 250 years, this nation has buried its heroes, welcomed strangers, survived wars, weathered depressions, crossed rivers, oceans, and even reached the moon. We've built cities, raised families, made mistakes and amends, and we keep moving forward, not perfectly, but persistently."
History has taught us something today. America was never guaranteed. Not in 1776, 1812, or 1861. Not in 1929, 45, or 62. And not even today. Every generation has looked into an uncertain future and wondered, will we make it?
Yet somehow here we are, not because every generation agreed or every generation got it right, but because every ordinary person believed this country was worth leaving better than they found it. Teachers, farm workers, factory workers and parents, pastors, firefighters, immigrants, soldiers, neighborhoods. The list goes on and on. People whose names history never recorded, but whose fingerprints are all over America.
You know, when we started today, we asked how America survived for 250 years. I think we found the answer. It wasn't the Constitution alone. It wasn't one president or political party. It wasn't one generation. It was millions of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, often without anyone watching.
One day, probably long after you or I are gone, America will celebrate her 300th birthday. Children will gather in classrooms, families will watch fireworks. Someone will tell the story of these years, the years we're living in right now. What will they say about us? Will they say we were too busy arguing to listen, too distracted to notice each other, too comfortable to sacrifice? Or will they say this generation chose courage over convenience, character over comfort, and service over self?
History isn't written by famous people. History is written by ordinary people who simply decide, today's the day I'm going to do the right thing.
Maybe that is the real American experience. Not whether a government can survive, but whether free people, generation after generation, will choose to become the kind of people worthy of freedom. Because freedom isn't inherited forever. Every generation receives it as a gift and returns it as a legacy, hopefully in better condition than they found.
So today, whether your family has been here for 400 years or 4 weeks, whether you live in a skyscraper or on a dirt road, whether you're young enough to be dreaming or old enough to remember, this story belongs to you now. You're no longer reading American history, you're writing it.
250 years ago, a handful of imperfect people dared to believe that liberty was worth the risk. Today, the question isn't whether they were worthy of that dream. The question is, are we? From all of us here at Smart Bites, happy 250th birthday, America. May we have the wisdom to learn from our past, the courage to face our present, and the faith to build a future worthy of those who came before us and those who will come after us. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and be blessed.